Welcome back to Morning Express, and now, like Sophia alluded to before we went on break, we are joined by Jerom Ochieng, who is the Director of the Integrated Financial Management Information System, a department within Treasury. We're going to be talking about curbing corruption and what the government is putting in place just to kind of curb this vice that has reared its ugly head in government operations. And just to kick things off, Jerom, last week you launched the e-procurement system, all this fanfare where even the president was there. But is that the solution? Why I'm asking this is it an issue about corruption, or is it lack of accountability within government circles when it comes to handling public funds?
Thank you very much, Mike. Well, our launch of e-procurement is going to actually look at a number of issues within how we do our procurements, especially in government. First of all, one of the key things we're looking at is that we want to ensure that as government procures, we really get value for money on what we are procuring from. So clearly we want to ensure that we buy within the market limits. There has been a number of cases whereby when government buys, for example, that pen you're holding, we find it buying at a very exorbitant price. But then we are coming up with a system that will ensure that we'll be buying within the market range. How we've done that is that we have developed what we are calling a market price index of all commonly procured items, which is a standard database indicating commonly procured items with their respective prices. So as I go in as a government official in procurement department wanting to buy a particular item, my focus would be buying that particular item within stipulated prices. So broadly, if we look at the Integrated Financial Management Information System, we're actually talking about a system that looks at public finance management from the aspect of budgeting, from the aspect of expenditure control and management, together with procurement and actually reporting and the auditability. So it is really a broad range, not necessarily looking at corruption as an item, but we want to ensure that we bring in sanity in terms of how government procures.
Going back to that question, so is it an issue of corruption or lack of accountability or oversight?
Well, it looks at all. So we are saying we also want to fight corruption by ensuring that we minimize as much as possible direct-to-direct contact between people doing procurement. We're also creating guidelines. So in a sense that we're ensuring that we're also buying within particular limits. And also to respond to your question about value for money procurement, we're ensuring that also there's that element of accountability and transparency, actually, because by creating an opportunity whereby many more people will participate in public procurement, then through creation of competition in procurement, then there's clearly that element of bringing on board accountability.
Perhaps people out there think that the best person to actually do business with is government, because you always guarantee that you're going to be paid, whether on time or not. But just looking at the kind of things that people buy, from pens, paper, basic things that are needed in government offices, perhaps what's the craziest amount paid, let's say, for a pen or a ream of printing paper?
Yeah, I think there was a report that was done a while back. I can't remember what year was that actually a pen went for about 100 shillings. And yet the market price for a pen at that time was only about 10 shillings. So, and so many others. I think what we'll do this time is that now that we're beginning we are going the electronic procurement way, we want to do a baseline in terms of reviewing how much has government been buying items previously, especially these commonly procured items. And then we look at the end of the financial year and actually now review, based on the introduction of the new system, what has been now the average price, because certainly there's going to be a variation, but we're talking about within limits. So I mean, if you're telling me that the market price of a pen is 12 and we bought it at 14 in Mandela, it makes sense. But then not telling me that the market price is 10, but we're buying it at 110. So we want, at the end of the financial year, we also do another survey just to find out that with the introduction of the new system, what has actually been the buying price of these commonly procured items. And then we'll clearly say, surely, there is some great savings that we have done based on the research that we will conduct.
Let's get back to you. Then how deep-rooted was this problem? Because I'm assuming anyone who's buying a pen at 100 shillings, I guess at the end of the day you just get a lump sum figure. But if you just look at you're paying 100 shillings for a pen, didn't that ring sound of any alarm bells over the last few years that we've had private contractors doing business with government?
Well, there has been concern, but I'll tell you, Mike, what has happened at that particular time is that even at that, what we would call, at buying it at 100 shillings, they bought it within the premise of the law. In other words, when you're doing that procurement, you are requested to invite 3 quotes. So what would happen is that you invite 3 of your friends, tell one of them to quote 100, tell another one to quote 150, and another one to quote 200. So what happens? The least quoted price is 100. You see? So at least those ones were noted. But then it was structured in a way that it was being done within the law. So you can't really fix it that, Chief, this thing you didn't do within the law. Every step of the law was followed. But then now we are saying we are coming up with a system that now tells you that as you buy that particular pen, note the market price is this much. So you are only allowed a limit of a certain percentage within that. So basically, having realized that challenge, then it is that brought us to now say, let us come up with some guidelines, a framework that will guide the people that as you go through that particular process, within the law as you might claim, but then there are certain guidelines that should be leading you.
By estimation, perhaps by how much have you overpaid for items that government actually buys? Because it's within the law, so it doesn't count as much as corruption, as much as it is just someone being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, actually, we are calling it misuse of public resources, because at the back of our mind we know clearly that should not be been happening. And like I told you, Mike, for me to put really a concrete figure, it is only after we conduct this particular survey that we will come up with a very concrete figure in terms of how much government has been losing. But we have, you think around going a few places and finding that we are buying this stationery, this remote foolscaps at 1,000 and all that. We clearly know there is a problem. But I think the magnitude of the problem would only clearly come out once we conduct this particular survey and say clearly this is what the loss we have been going through. But at the moment, I'll tell you, it would be very difficult for us to put in a fixed figure and say this particular amount, and yet we really don't have, say, scientific facts.
Are you able to point out how many line items are there perhaps that government actually buys, ranging from everything that is procured?
Yeah, we have a list of about 8,000 commonly procured items, because we've gone into the detail of each and every single item. You talk about the pen, because historically what would happen is that somebody would tell you that the pen I bought is different from this other pen because this other pen has these particular features that this one does not have. So we've gone into the detail of enumerating each and every single commonly procured item, the variety of stationaries. For example, issues like hard disk, issues like flash disks, we've gone into each and every one of them. So we have a total of 8,000 items in the database of commonly procured items, and a survey has been done, and the market price of each of these items has been provided for. So
like you're saying now, the e-procurement system now creates a price index by which you compare whatever as a bidder is coming in, a supplier is actually quoting for items.
Exactly. Whatever this, you still send your 3 quotations to, or 4 or 5, based on the procurement you want to do. But then as the quotes come in, you refer to the market price index and then ask yourself, surely am I going to allow this margin? Yeah. So basically, that framework is provided for.
Yeah. Just listening to this story when it was unfolding last week, I guess the main issue here is just limiting interaction with procurement officers within whichever government office. Is this the case?
Sorry, I didn't know that.
The issue around the electronic procurement system is just limiting the kind of interaction procurement officers have out there where there might be that kind of collusion. Is that the case?
That's only one of them.
Yeah.
One of the, I mean, there are so many other advantages we get from the implementation of electronic procurement. What we are saying is that now we have a standard way by which government procures. In other words, in an electronic system, you are guided by the system workflow, so to speak. Another thing that comes in is that we have what we are calling approval hierarchies. By approval hierarchy, I mean there are various functionalities within the procurement chain being done by various people. For example, if within my department I want to buy a computer, the first step is somebody makes a requisition. It comes to me as the head of a department through the system. I must make that approval. Then it goes to the procurement section. The procurement section prepares the bidding and all that, then forwards it to the head of procurement, approves that. So we have really a chain of activities which has to be approved step by step in the entire chain. So what we are saying is that we are distributing responsibility, so that at one point somebody might say, no, this is not right, I reject. It has to come back with reason, certainly. Then the other fellow to whom that information comes back to reviews it and then makes a correction, or completely discards it, said that my boss has refused this, it has to be done in a particular way. So we are talking about an entire approval chain, whereby now we will be ensuring that many people are seeing whatever is going on and they take responsibilities. So we also have within the system ability for us to audit, which has
real-time audits.
Real-time audits, so that in case there is a query, we log in onto the system and actually make a trace of what happened for this particular during this particular procurement. And another thing, what we are saying is that our e-procurement we facilitate is a key issue that has been very close to the government's heart, especially in the Jubilee administration. We are talking about provision of 30% of public procurement to the preference group. By preference group, I mean the youth, the women, and people with a disability. We're actually talking about the system being able to do that in the sense that at the point of registration, we do what we're calling a business classification, that your business entity is classified either as a youth-owned, women-owned, or a person with a disability, or you fall in any other category. Now, if you fall in these preference groups, then procurements that relate to this preference group will only be forwarded. When we're talking about issues like quotation, the procurement opportunities will only be available to this set of groups. Okay, so that is one of the gains we are saying the system will facilitate, because otherwise it was becoming a bit difficult. Whenever you want to send out procurement, how do you know the women owned? How do you know the?
Was it a case of people being fronted? People are using the women, the youth, and people with disability just as a front and actually getting that.
Yes, exactly.
Tender.
Yeah, but right now your business entity must be registered and classified as such. And then when your information comes into the system, there is a unique identification by which we identify this category, so that when you are sending out quotes, we send out quotes to clearly these defined groups.
Are you going to be pre-qualifying suppliers, the kind of people you interact with?
Yes. The pre-qualification process, as anchored in the law, still goes on, because as we are doing procurement, the procurement is still governed by the Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2005, which identifies the various procurement processes. So what we are saying is that automation has only made some of the things simpler or easier, but still work within the premise of the Public Procurement and Disposal Act.
Yeah. One thing I read was that the issue is that government is slow in paying out, is sometimes slow in paying out to its contractors and people who come to do business with government. Mm-hmm. But I hear the system will allow you to know if there's actually money before you actually tender for items, so that you don't complain of tendering for items and not getting paid on time.
Mike, you're very right. What we're saying is that we have a fully integrated system, whereby we are talking about, basically in government, we begin with our planning and then we get into the budget. Excuse me. At the budgeting bit, before now you begin an expenditure. Yeah. First of all, we reference the budget and ask ourselves, we do what is called a funds check. The system will be able to check whether funds for that particular item is available. If funds are available, then you proceed to the next stage. which now takes you through the entire approval process. So this will facilitate quick payment in the sense that, one, we will not have issues of pending bills. Previously, because like previously experienced, whereby people are actually buying in and yet the budgets are not available. So first of all, we conduct a funds check, ensure budget is available, proceed with your procurement process. Secondly, towards the tail end is that we are also doing electronic payments.
Yep.
Okay, so basically at the point of registration, we are requesting you to provide us with your details, including the bank details, that upon this award of contract to a particular firm and all that, then invoicing and your delivery is conducted, then your payment will be very quick, in the sense that we will now be doing automatic transfer to the various suppliers who is supplying to government. So suppliers will only be receiving their money in their bank accounts, unlike the scenario whereby you had to come around and follow your checks. We're no longer writing checks in government. Payment is going automatically through RTGS into your accounts.
Right, just finally, as part of public financial management that IFMIS actually is championing in Treasury, cashless payment in next frontier that we're moving to,
yes.
How far are we with that?
Well, the cashless payment is some work in progress. Actually, very soon, the team that is dealing with the cashless payment will be basically launching the cashless payment platform. So it is some work in but then there are bits of various agencies having gone beyond that, but then the task force is looking at the entire cashless solution within government. So this will consolidate all the various efforts that other agencies, like for example, IFMIS has gone a step ahead. We are through with the cashless payment front, but then there are various other agencies that also needs to be brought on board, and that's why we have an entire task force that is looking at the solution of cashless payment, looking at the various agencies within government. National Treasury is involved, AG's office is involved. I normally confuse the Auditor General and
Attorney General.
Attorney General. So they are looking at all both the legal and all the logistical implementation of this.
In one word, will this end the days of toa kitu kidogo?
Surely it will.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Jerom Ochieng, thank you very much for your time and shedding more light onto how the integrated financial management information system is actually going to end or curtail the practices that have been impacting government operations in the past. Thank you very much. Sophia, so you here, you no longer have to go into government office and actually interact with people. But we will be back with Sophia Wanuna, who is going to have our person of interest, who is the National Lands Commission chairperson. So don't go too far.